CDC survey reveals over 3% of high school students identify as transgender. A groundbreaking survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reveals that more than 3% of high school students identify as transgender, marking a significant finding in understanding youth identities. This result aligns with a 2022 Pew Research Center survey, which found that 2% of adults under 30 identify as trans, with an additional 3% identifying as non-binary. The data reflects a broader trend of increasing comfort among younger generations with LGBTQ identities. An earlier survey highlighted that nearly a third of Gen Z individuals describe themselves as something other than cisgender and heterosexual, compared to only 16% of millennials, 7% of Generation X, and just 4% of baby boomers. The survey also uncovered alarming health disparities for transgender students. 26% of transgender and questioning students attempted suicide in the past year, compared to 5% of cisgender male and 11% of cisgender female students. The data shows that schools contribute significantly to this distress, with 25.3% of transgender students and 26.4% of questioning students skipping school to feeling unsafe. Trans youth also face family rejection, leading to a crisis of youth homelessness exacerbated by discrimination in shelters and social services. You know, I was looking at this from the CDC, and it's wonderful to see them finally start asking these sorts of questions, because we don't ask youth these identities enough. I think, you know, too often we're told like how small or how large the trans community is. Like, you know, these are numbers that are actually larger than the number of people that have red hair, for instance, in this country. And we really need to understand that trans kids are a part of our society. I think the most disturbing finding, honestly, was not only the trans youth suicide number was horrifying.
25%, that's crazy.
Yeah, but like that's per year that attempt. 5% and 11% of that's still an alarmingly high number. 5% to 11% of cis kids. Now, as to the number that want to identify as cisgender and heterosexual, who on earth wants to be cisgender and heterosexual? Goodness, I'm glad to see more young people are coming up with new identities and new ways of embracing diversity. What do you think, Faye?
I mean, it's, you know, again, that hurts. The 25% of that group trying, you know, we're taught by the Trevor Project every year about how high the percentage of kids in LGBTQIA that attempt suicide every year. And trans kids are at the top of that list, you know. 3% of high school kids are trans. Think about that. That's a big ass number. You know, like we are everywhere, and these people have to start understanding and seeing us that way. You know, the disparities are just way too much. You know, these kids are not old enough to really find resources on their own, yet they're homeless, yet they're rejected by their family, yet they can't get the right gender affirming care that they need that would actually prolong their life. CDC, AMA, they all say gender affirming care, right, is you are less likely to try to kill yourself if you're going through gender affirming care. And gender affirming care is not just getting a gender affirming surgery. It's not, okay? It's psychological help. It's help just living day to day as you know, as the sex that you authentically feel you are. There are so many things that come with that. Resources, therapy, a bunch of stuff, you know? And I mean, think about when everybody at this table was a teen. It's hard enough being a queer kid. It's hard enough being a gay boy, right? But then imagine looking in the mirror and knowing that you're in the wrong sex body. Like, that's gotta be so tough. And then know that your educators are not helping you, that the government doesn't want to even see you. I mean, that's a lot for a freaking 11-year-old kid. Like,
if the government will deny access to what restroom you can use, or even just trying to deny what pronoun you want to be used. Yes. These things really do affect kids on a very personal, emotional level. And kids as young as 5 or 10, you know, can deal with these situations. And when the schools don't support them, it's horrifying.
But there's also the entire thing that culturally we have some ridiculous anti-queer forces, anti-trans forces specifically.
Yeah.
People like Elon Musk, who's worth $bazillion and use his platform
for evil. Just say it, for evil.
No, screw that guy. He is evil.
Yeah.
And also, not to mention the turf in chief, J.K. fucking Rowling.
All right, the turf. And you know, this is all. This is why it's so important to vote now that we are in full voting season. It's so important because if the party that is so, if they get in power, these numbers won't even be reflected properly. They won't even. They won't be
they won't
accurate.
even be
there.
counted.
They'll be
They won't even
they'll be hidden. There won't be accurate information for us to even be bemoaning.
Yeah.
So it's so important to vote. Vote, vote, vote.
Yeah.
Blue.
Vote blue.
Blue.